What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Make It Custom. I'm Carl Fisher, and today we are gonna repair this Mercury Monarch Fender for a friend of ours. We're gonna use a patch panel that will need some tuning, and then we're also gonna have to deal with some rust on the inside that we don't have a patch panel for. So stay tuned for this one. I'm gonna use relatively simple tools, simple techniques, MIG welding. This is stuff that you can expect to do on your own at home with probably the stuff that you already have or friends have. So yeah, this is a little rust repair project for you guys. Hope you enjoy the video and hope you learn a little something. So thanks a lot, everybody. Don't forget to like, click subscribe, hit notifications. Let's do it. Let's have a look at this Fender and how are we gonna attack this thing, right? One of the common questions that people always ask is, do you use the entire patch panel? And I think that depends on what you're doing and how big the patch panel is. Sometimes it does make sense. Like if you're talking about a quarter panel, instead of cutting right through the middle of a quarter panel, if you only need the bottom half, sometimes it makes more sense to replace the entire quarter panel because you're able to attach it at its factory joints, being the lead seam across a B or a C pillar, maybe near the tail light, and then you're just kind of spot welding, the door jamb and the pinches on the bottom. So then you don't have to cut right through and do a big long weld right in the middle of something that is definitely going to warp. But in the case of something like this, where I am able to get all the way around it, I'm not going to replace more metal than I need to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip this down. We're going to find out exactly how far the rust goes. Here's a patch panel that my buddy had. He only had one, so this is part one of two. So if you're watching this and you like this video, I'm gonna have to do the same repair to the other Fender, but I don't have a patch panel. So we're gonna use some simple metal shaping and basic tools to do that in the next video, which hopefully will be next week. I am gonna end up trimming some of this back and only using what I need to replace this rusted area. So start off with using a stripper disc, try and remove most of the paint, and then we'll kind of take it from there, see how far this rust really goes. Got that cleaned off. So this panel folds over and then it stops. Now there's like this inner panel that's very damaged as well that we're gonna have to rebuild. We're gonna have to make a whole new one on the inside there so that the headlight actually has something to mount to. The headlight would have mounted, or like the bucket itself, with 4 bolts, completely missing there, or maybe it was that one. There's another one right here, but there's just nothing left. So we're gonna start off by just putting this cap on. So what I can do now is I can see there's actually a factory lead joint here, so I'd like to stay away from that if possible, and it seems quite solid, maybe from here down. So there's a little bit of pitting right there that we saw. We'd like to probably replace that. What I might do is clean a little bit of the inside and see how solid it is on the inside. I think there's a split right here, and that's probably where we'll try and stay away from so that our new piece can actually attach in that area. We can maybe cut this off about here. And then on this side, unfortunately, I think the damage goes even past where this patch is. Our patch only comes to wherever it comes to, and that's kind of it. So I am gonna trim some off the top. Whoa! Our last pit is about there, so I'll probably cut it about there as well. It's still something that I can easily get into behind here and hammer if need be. Well, definitely will need be. We're gonna do this all with MIG welding and trying to just control distortion. So there won't be too much hammering, if any. But our next step now is just to trim this to the spot where it will be our final piece, and then we can trace this piece onto the fender. If we were to just cut this all out and then try to fit that, it'd be very difficult for a couple of reasons. One, you wouldn't have a reference point anymore. And number two, because you're cutting this out and then trying to fit your patch to that, it's gonna be a lot of guessing and testing, whereas what we can do is just trim our patch until it's quite close, and in some cases, try to fit it with hammer and and a hammer and a dolly so that it fits really tight. Like the tighter this patch fits, the more you can trust your scribe line. Because when you do have an overlapping piece of material, it is technically, the thickness of a piece of metal in is how far it's gonna come. But if you can get it to fit really, 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 really perfectly tight, then you can think about it like, okay, well, that thickness of my Sharpie line is about the thickness of a piece of metal, and you can cut on the other side, and then you're gonna be so close that that doing anything like that, any type of fitting to get things closer so that you can mark it and trust it, is worth it when you're doing a patch panel. So I'm gonna start trimming this now. We'll trim it down to the original size that we want. We're definitely not gonna use this flange here. I don't think it's necessary to replace any of that. It's not rotten, and now you have to be trying to match up a body gap. Okay, something I'm now noticing is that I kind of want to go a little bit further back. I'm probably gonna use a little bit more of the patch just to get into a little bit safer zone than right next to where there are some heavy pits. I also want to get past where this inner piece is, just so that I'll be able to grind it easier and stuff from the inside, and just have a little bit more access to it. So I just want to get past this lip, so I'm measuring from this a little bit, maybe an inch past that lip to this, to get my length of the patch panel. Okay, so we're cleaned up and we're sitting on there. We can see a few problems right away. What I'm seeing is definitely how sharp these lines are, not the same in the patch panel. Positioning of them is not 100% something we can check quite yet. The reason being is that this is not fully sitting on all the way. So I can tell by here that we're sitting off by a little bit more than we should be, and then definitely on this side, it's not able to fit around the material that's already there, so it's not sitting on by quite a bit here. At this stage, I'm still looking to fit this better before I make any marks, before I cut anything, before I do anything. I want this to sit on all the way, because right now, technically, if this side is sitting on more than that side, this is also sitting crooked, so any of this stuff couldn't be checked or verified yet, right? We need this to sit on all the way. And what I'll do even after that is once we've like cleaned this up, we've fit it so that this can get on more, I'm gonna trim some of the lip away, like the original lip, so that this new piece can even sit on further, so that we get the tightest, closest, best spot for us to scribe our cut. And then we know it's like only the thickness of the material that it needs to drop in back to sit really perfect and level and straight and all that. So that is my next plan. I'll probably flip the fender over. I'm gonna clean these lips up on the inside and trim away what needs to be trimmed so that this edge here, see how sharp that is and how rolled this is? Like those are also things that you can just tune up all those things at this stage right now. So anyway, trim some more away, fit this a little bit better so that we can trim it and cut it out. All right, so now it is fitting on a lot better. I can actually get that nice and tight on this side while having it pretty tight on this side. I just peeled these up a little bit just so that, like, I haven't formed them to this yet. I've just got them out of the way so they're not holding on to it. So now this brow is actually quite tight all the way along. The next spot that is troublesome are these body lines. See how it's like pushed this up now? Like you can't really sit this flat when you push this all the way in. It's because these spots are hitting right here and here. You can see those spots would totally push up on it. The thing I'm gonna address is I'm probably gonna use like some, like a couple rulers and extend and mark out where these are. And then I'm gonna try my best to bead roll those steps into it a little bit sharper. And then hopefully we'll be able to get that sitting down a little bit better. Also, it won't sit down properly because it's stacking on top a little bit, but it'll at least get closer than it is. We can actually start trimming things away once we've got, you know, our brow kind of pretty close. We can put a couple marks in it and then actually trim some of this metal away so that our patch panel can still overlap, but a little bit tighter. Okay, just realized something. Don't have a deep enough bead roller. Can't do this. Wanted to crisp those lines up with the bead roller. Can't do it. What are you gonna do? I guess gotta do it by hand. So I'm gonna make a little corking tool, basically a chisel, and we're just gonna knock that bead into it. Take a little bit of time, but we'll just play with it till we get it. Don't exactly know how this is gonna go because we can't go in the bead roller. I just taped a piece of rubber, taped it to a dolly here. So I'm gonna try and cork in a little bit of these body lines and try and just step them a little bit. So I just have like a dulled chisel and a hammer. I'm just gonna tap them in, see if we can get that body line a little bit more visible. I can foresee this taking a very long time. It's not the prettiest, but the line is much better off in there and it's nice and straight. Just kind of marked it from both sides and then just tapped it on that rubber with my corking tool. Now this one, the bottom line is in a good spot and it feels okay, but the top line has the radius a little bit too high. So I'm just gonna move that over by using this dolly on top of here and just trying to tapping this edge over, cleaning up that line. I'm kind of looking across the material and I can see my hammer marks, and that's how I know where the dolly is like I'm holding it right against there. I'll check by looking underneath, but when the hammer contacts on the dolly to sharpen up a spot, you end up seeing the imprint of the hammer on the material. So that's kind of another reason why it's nice to have clean material, clean hammers, is so that you can visually see where you're at by the hammer mark. Okay, tight there, tight all the way around. And our lines are looking pretty good. I mean, they could be better, but honestly, like, I'd say they're pretty good. We can tune these up a little bit more once they're welded on as well. I think this is pretty good. It's definitely a lot better than it was. I can kind of solidify exactly where I like the fit the best, put a couple clamps on it. I'm gonna mark this first and then trim it out, keeping in mind that these will end up coming in a little bit because of the thickness of the material. So I'm gonna try and do a nice fine Sharpie line and then maybe cut the line off. we've got this piece fitting pretty good. We've got everything trimmed out. I did prep the back side a little bit just by sanding it, get any of that undercoat off. The name of the game when you're MIG welding a patch like this on, I'm gonna wanna choose somewhere in the center here. The body line to me is most important and it's the least maneuverable. What I'm gonna do is I'm probably gonna put my first couple of tacks up top here and just use the edge here to manipulate this and really line it up, get a couple tacks around the body line, and then I'll just kind of work it all the way around, and maybe there's a possibility I might have to trim a little bit more or do something. What I'm gonna do is tack this all kind of sporadically in here, well, methodically, sporadically, keeping the panel not too hot. And then I'm gonna break up my tacks by about 1 inch or so, or maybe less. This car is gonna get a little bit of Bondo, just like most cars. It's like a driver thing, so we're not hammer welding with TIG, and we're doing stuff that you would normally do to save cars, you know? Regular people stuff. Let's MIG this in. I'm gonna use this old MIG welder just because I love it, and it's, you know, it's probably older than I am. And I also run very thin wire on it. I run the 023 wire on this welder specifically because I only ever use this one for sheet metal. And the smaller the wire means the less power to melt that wire. You get it? So it will keep less heat in the panel just by having smaller wire, because that smaller wire is not, doesn't take as much energy to heat up to melt. Small welder, small wire for sheet metal, and yeah, very basic stuff. Okay, so at this point we've got it tacked in. I just tried to keep everything flush like I was saying. We've got no, you know, it's not sunken in here at all. It's nice and tight and has a smooth flow. That's kind of what we're looking for. Sometimes, you know, if a piece is cut incorrectly or, you know, it's not a tight enough gap, it might want to sink in when you're tacking it. So basically right now, happy with the way it's looking. This piece did need a little bit of tack and tack and tap, you know, tack a little bit, tap a little more, and just try and line that up, wrap it around. Turned out really good. So next step is I'm gonna grind these down, just kind of give it a once over sand to see how close things are as far as the, you know, the panel fit between this panel and this panel. What I'm gonna do after these are sanded, I'll just kind of sand on both sides. I'll just tap those up and down, try and get them even a little bit closer before I add my tacks all the way along and start doing my methodical MIG welding experience on here. See, when I grind these tacks down, I stop as soon as it hits one side or the other. Sometimes you get lucky, the tack is absolutely perfect and it grinds off both totally flush. But you see, this one tells me that this side is just a tiny bit low. This one tells me that this side is a tiny bit low. So there's a few on here that are telling me what side I need to hammer. So basically, like for this one, if I wanted to pull this up a little bit, I'm just gonna, you know, hammer on this side and push up with the dolly on this side and just kind of feel for it and give it a tap. Being able to run your fingers across this, or run your fingernail across this gap and not be able to feel the height difference, that just means that when you sand it all out, you'll be able to sand it out smooth and you won't have to grind into one side or the other to actually get it there. I don't think it's, you know, it's good to just make them look pretty. Like the metal should be aligned for it to be able to be like that. Like I won't keep grinding to make that line disappear, because really that line isn't really an issue either. You know, if you have a little bit extra on one side, like what is that, a 32nd of an inch? It's nothing. That is it. Just tack it and cool it, tack it and cool it, and we have very little, if any, distortion. Obviously, like technically there must be some. We are changing things, you know, by heating things up and things are expanding and contracting, but I believe that this is the best way to control it. Got this all smoothed out, just a little 80 grit on there. These feel really good. Like I can feel that these are nice and smooth right in here and here. You could probably even see in the light, we've got a bit of a crease. It's more of a crease than it looks. This is beautiful. Nice rolling, looks good, right? Rolls. This has a crease. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna back this area up with a flat dolly and hammer down on that. So yeah, just gonna work on that a little bit and then we should be done for now. Okay, so this has a tiny bit of a round to it, but I'm using the flatter section of this dolly. Well, I'm gonna end this video here. I wanna thank everybody for watching. I'm gonna try and do a little bit of sheet metal work each week and just throw out any little tips and trips. I know that this rust repair stuff is what most guys are doing this type of work for is you're trying to save a car, you're trying to build a project. Pretty much they're all rusty these days. So check out Patreon, check out the merch store, japanscustoms.com, if you'd like to get more from the channel. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for all the support, all the likes. If you don't mind throwing a comment in there or subscribing to the channel if you already haven't, or if you haven't already, that would be greatly appreciated. And yeah, just keep an eye open for what's coming next. And the ramp truck, we're still cranking on that. We'll flip you over and just show you where we're at. Where Elio's working on this right now. I'm gonna get back on this right now also. Gonna build a gas tank for this thing today and get some more final adjustments on the steering. We have to make a transmission adapter, all kinds of good stuff. So stay tuned, and thanks a lot for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Later.